Bill Burns.
All right, it is 3:02. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Nicole Jackson, Director of Education with Center for Engagement, Environmental Justice, and Health. And today I am going to be your guide, walking you through all things Climate Justice Fellows and hope to see some of your applications come through. So Siege is the driving force behind the Climate Justice Fellows Program and a leader in the community based on environmental advocacy. Siege is committed to transforming environmental justice through education, mentorship, collaborative projects, and collaborative projects that directly benefit local communities and the communities that we work with, and particularly some of our community partners. Our core mission, vision, and values guide every aspect of all of our programming to ensure that all of our initiatives promote equitable and sustainable change. If you want more information about Siege, please feel free to visit us at siege.center and you will find some information there. But full disclosure, we are in a transition period, so our website is going through transition period at this time. A little more about Siege and our team. We are led by Dr. Sokobi M. Wilson, who is our executive director. Our associate executive director is Chris White. We have a small but mighty team with our director of operations, Jessica Berger, myself, Nicole Jackson, director of education. We have our wonderful air quality scientist, Dr. Vivek Ravichandran, our policy specialist, Frederick Johnson, and our outreach and engagement specialist team, Nam Pham, Tamar Dickerson, and Vanessa Vassell. So let's jump right into the Climate Justice Fellows Program. So the Climate Justice Fellows Program emphasizes a dual focus on education and community empowerment. We also like to note that the module portion of the program specifically will take you anywhere between 4 and 10 hours per week of self-guided study. The modules specifically are tailored for novice to intermediate knowledge in terms of what we know about environmental and climate justice. Um, we also like to share that this year's program, 2025, we will only be accepting up to 15 fellows. 10 of those fellows will be new fellows, 5 of those fellows will be senior fellows. And this year's program, additionally, we are going to forego the traditional capstone project that we would normally do and focus more on hands-on practical work where the fellows will get to work directly with our experts at the Siege Center, in addition to some of our community partners. So what does the program look like? So the program, we can sparse it out into phases. Phase one, we like to call those the learning modules. Pardon me. We like to call those the learning modules. That's our lectures, our workshops. Those modules, for the most part, are self-guided. You will review a series of either videos, essays, papers, other types of resources, journals, and other documents relating to the specific topic of the week. Those weekly modules, you will go through those modules on your own, and then one day per week, The fellows will come together, we'll discuss those modules, go over any questions, figure out how we can apply them in theory, and start to get an understanding for how you all have worked on certain projects or different things within your community. Phase one also requires one in-person meeting. So please keep that in mind when you're sending in your application. All of the in-person required components will happen within the Baltimore and Washington, D.C. area. There are actually two in-person requirements for fellows to attend and to complete the program. And the first will be, either halfway through phase one of the learning modules, and that will be an all-day in-person retreat, most likely on a Saturday. There will be an additional requirement for senior fellows, and that what we're calling the senior fellows check-in. And that check-in would be either with myself or Dr. Wilson or any of the additional SEACH team members that we have already mentioned. Phase two of this program, the beginning of phase two is actually probably going to overlap this year with 2 to 3 modules of phase one. And this is what we're calling the collaboration and the hands-on practice phase, where our fellows will work directly with SIEGE staff, whether you're working on policy work, air quality initiatives, helping to develop educational content for this year's upcoming symposium or other related issues that we're working on within SIEGE. We also want to make sure that you are getting the best in terms of networking and introducing you to our, excuse me, to our community partners as well. So there may be potential for you to work with some of the community partners um, for that. And that's how we're that's how it's a slightly different for 2025. In the previous cohorts, phase two of the program, which we'll probably move back to in 2026. I mentioned this is a transition year for us. So phase two of the program, fellows work to develop and hone a capstone project, and that's what we are foregoing this year. Now, senior fellows, because senior fellows are previous cohort members, they may be given the opportunity to actually expand on the capstone projects that they have already done or may still be working on. So while I mentioned senior fellows, so senior fellows are identified as alumni of the previous cohort. So for 2025, only those individuals who are alumni of the 2023 and 2024 cohorts are eligible to apply as senior fellows. And how we define an alumni of the program are those fellows that have not just gone through the program, but have successfully completed all of the requirements of the program. So those particular fellows would have received their certificate of completion. They would have been, signed off from either Dr. Wilson or the previous program manager, and they would have presented their capstone projects and findings at the annual Environmental Justice Symposium. Back up a little bit. I forgot to mention, so senior fellows will also work this year, in addition to expanding their projects possibly, they will also be participating, taking a more active role in mentoring. So there may be opportunities where one of your um, learning modules is actually conducted by a senior fellow, or they may be a guest speaker during one of our lunch and learn sessions. Um, I did mention that there's a once weekly required component. I should have stated that that component is also virtual. Um, and there are 2 opportunities per week for that. So one is required and the other is optional. So the one that's required, that's the one where all of the fellows come together to review the modules that we went through. The second is a lunch and learn, where we will often have guest speakers that will highlight and speak to the module of that particular week. And then phase three. Phase three is what we call our symposium. This year's symposium is from September 10th to Wednesday, September 10th to Saturday, September 13th. Um, it is a requirement that all fellows participating in the program participate in symposium. If you are selected for the program, we will cover your lodging and cost of attendance to the symposium. If there are travel requirements, those would need to be talked about um, one-on-one, as we do not necessarily intend to pay fully for travel um, from certain locations, but we can certainly talk about it as we have, um, excuse me, as we actually have some scholarship money set aside for that. But so for phase three, you will also be instrumental in either helping us to develop content. Some of you may be asked to moderate different sessions at the symposium, gives you the opportunity to put, into practice what you have been learning. So we would make sure that we're picking sessions for you based on some of the things that you learned and allow you the opportunity to get to know the speakers in those sessions. Some of you may have a little more advanced knowledge. So some of you, depending on what we do throughout the program, we may also give you the opportunity to fully develop a session on your own. And then others, if you have advanced knowledge, some of you we may actually invite to participate and speak on a panel. So let's talk about the timeline really quickly. So today is April 1st, and we're having this information session. The application opened on March 24th. We had a very short window for our applications this year, just 2.5 weeks. Um, so the deadline, it's very important to get all of your application or questions in. We have set the deadline as 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, April 6th. Um, some people did reach out to us saying that they may not be able to get their letters of recommendation back in time. As long as we have your letters of recommendation before April 11th, uh, excuse me, not April 11th, before April 9th, which is a Wednesday, before April 9th, you should be good to go there. We plan to evaluate applications as they come in, make notes of, certain applicants that we want to consider. And then our goal is to inform any of the fellows that have been accepted into the program by April 14th, and we will give you about a week to respond and to decide if you want to be part of this year's program. Please excuse me. If you decide that you do not want to be part of this year's program, we would ask that you kindly respond to us in a timely manner so that we may be able to reach out to additional potential cohort members that may want to participate in the program. Um, there is a mention that those that complete the program, just about 80% of the program, you will qualify to receive your $2,500 stipend. Again, this is a virtual cohort, so attendance in those virtual sessions will be very important. We do understand that a lot of people here are working professionals, so occasionally some things may come up. So we have, guidelines in place to be able to um excuse, one or two absences. But because this is a virtual cohort, we want to make sure that you're getting the most that you possibly can out of this. And we want to make sure that um, you are able to adhere to those in-person requirements, those two in-person requirements. Um, right now, the Fellows Retreat, we have an either or date of June 14th or June 28th. We will let you know that date as soon as possible. We will do our best to give you at least uh, 4 to 5 weeks notice with the confirmation of that date. That date is unfortunately going to be dependent on Dr. Wilson's schedule, specifically because he will also be at the retreat and he will help facilitate the retreat. Dr. Wilson will also be the first face that you will see in terms of facilitation for your very first module. So it's important that you will also come to the fellows orientation. Right now, the fellows orientation is scheduled for 3 p.m. on April 23rd, which is a Friday. I put it as late as possible as I could on a Friday, just because I know a lot of people are working. So hopefully the fellows that we accept will be able to attend that session. As for the weekly sessions, typically the weekly sessions have been on Mondays at noon. The virtual Monday sessions, they have been on Mondays at noon. However, depending on, because this cohort will be relatively small this year, I will work with fellows to sort of do a majority rules. We'll send around a poll to see what time works best for everyone. Um, and depending on, what is shared, we'll try to schedule the times around folks' schedules collectively. But the Friday sessions, which are the optional sessions, the lunch and learn sessions where we'll have guest speakers, those are not typically open for change. We try to do those sessions early, anywhere between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Friday. There are a few holidays built into um, that are happening over the summer, so there may be occasion where we need to change the date and or time of some of those sessions, but you will have that information well in advance of those changes. And that is the gist of Climate Justice Fellows. If you have not filled in your application, you may scan the QR code here on the screen. I'll be sure to send around um, a link to the slides and you can select it there. But right now, I am going to stop sharing my screen. We're at 30 minutes in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I want to give you all the opportunity to ask questions. I've turned off the chat intentionally because I knew it would be hard for me to go back and um, answer all of those questions since we didn't do this as a webinar form. So what I'm going to do is ask you to um, use your Zoom reactions and raise your hands, and then I'll call on you and you can bring yourself off mute to ask any of the questions that you may have. All right, give me 1 second. I saw Hosea first. So Hosea, if you want to come off of mute, uh, please go ahead and ask your question.
Good afternoon, and I just want to thank you all for this platform and taking the time out of your very busy schedule to bring us the information regarding your esteemed program. I'm an automobile dealer in Kansas City, Missouri, and I am doing a lot of things as it relate to the EV, bringing the EV awareness and ownership to urban America. And my question is, I have submitted the application. Is there a? I'm looking as I speak to you. I may have omit. I may be overlooking it, but I'd like to know what is there an email that I could submit the letter of recommendations to, please?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So you can submit letters of recommendations to fellows,
Mm-hmm.
FELLOWS at CEEJH.org.
CEE.
Yes, CEE is in Edward, JH.org. And I did put that in the chat. You should be able to see it
Okay.
um, in the chat there.
Thank you kindly.
You're welcome. Let's see, who was next? I see. Oh, Jose, are you done? I saw
Oh,
that
yes,
you.
ma'am. I'm done. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I see Jasmine Williford.
Thank you.
You're
Um, so I have a couple of questions. One, the symposium location in September, do you know that already?
Yes, the symposium location is in Baltimore, Maryland. So I will reiterate that both of the in-person requirements, they will be within the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area.
Okay. And are the fellows retreat, is that mandatory or is that optional?
The fellows retreat is mandatory. That is the first in-person requirement. And then the second in-person requirement is the symposium.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Liana Quiones, did I say that correctly? Oh, you're on mute, Liana.
Sorry. Hi, yeah, pretty close. Liana Quinones, but the Enya is not on it currently, so you did great. Yeah, thank you so much for giving the overview. I really appreciate it. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about like what the different modules cover, and then also um like what the projects, I know you said they're not capstones this year, they're more collaborative, like what you all envision those may look like, or what like past projects have looked like, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, excuse me. Yeah, so the modules this year, there are 12 modules. It ranges from introduction to environmental justice, to community science, to energy equity, policy strategies, food sovereignty, green and natural infrastructure, capacity building. We review some mapping tools. Um, there are multiple different types of components this year, um, in terms of the actual modules. What your second portion of that question was specifically about past projects, correct? So if I'm understanding correctly, yeah. So some of the previous projects that were worked on, in addition to doing research and writing, the projects revolved around stormwater management, regenerative agriculture, neighborhood revitalization projects, community walk audits, um, what do you call it? Climate action, EJ scorecards. So you name it, we've pretty much done it. There have been fellows that have done podcasts as a form of education. So those are just some of the things. So this year, there actually is an opportunity for fellows to participate in um, a podcast because that's one of the current projects that we are working on with Siege. So I hope that answers your question. Next hand is Jessica Clark. I'm going to ask you to come off mute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for the time to ask a question. Mine is participation resident dependent as long as you can attend the in-person requirements. So, for example, like Maryland or yeah, that East Coast region.
Uh, are you asking, are you required to be in Maryland? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
No, you are not required to be in Maryland. Thank you for that question.
Okay.
Yep. All
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome. Who's next? Is it Grace Weisner?
Yes. Um, Hello. I had a question. So I'm interested in applying, obviously, but I'm concerned about like the weekly module, like when the meetings are. So, right, like with my work schedule, I guess I'm concerned, if I go through the application process, if I was to be, accepted and then find like only to find out that the meeting times are like during my work day. I'm just curious if that's like an issue that people have run into before, or if there's, yeah, I'm just kind of wondering how I would navigate that, or how that could be navigated.
Yeah, so that actually has been an issue that people have run into before. If it's in the middle of the workday, we realize that not everyone is in the same time zone. We do our best to try to keep it at noon, particularly for those of us who may be international. So if, we're there to, they're like in Africa or Europe, noon sort of is that sweet spot for everyone to be able to
Hello,
um,
Hosea.
participate. Um, so
Hey.
that is the long answer to your question, but the short answer is this year we are looking to do
On the Zoom.
a much smaller cohort than we have done in the past. So I'm not sure when you hopped on the call, but one of the things that I mentioned is that we will do a short poll with all of the fellows that are accepted to try to do and get an understanding of when everyone is available, so that we may be able to try to work with everyone's schedules. So now, not individually, but collectively. So sort of more of a majority rules things. And because I am running the program this year, I am not opposed to maybe alternating days. So like maybe one week we will do it early afternoon. The next week we may do it in the morning, and the following week after that we could do it in the evening. So I'm not opposed to that. I hope that answered your question. I see Hanifa Parker Morris.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for this overview. This was really helpful. Um, I'm excited to apply now. Um, I had a question similar to a previous question, but I don't think I heard the exact answer. So forgive me if you did go over it already, but I'm curious about some of the like projects that people, I think if I heard it right, like we would be kind of matched with someone like a professional who would be serving, I guess, sort of as like a mentor almost, or a guide throughout the fellowship. Am I understanding that part correctly?
You are understanding that part correctly. So it's
Okay.
twofold. That portion wouldn't happen until much later after we're finished going through some of the modules and we're able to ascertain some of your interests and where you think you would make the best impact. Someone asked
Okay.
about previous projects. And I mentioned previous projects revolved around stormwater management, regenerative agriculture, neighborhood revitalization, different types of environmental justice legislation, climate action scorecards or legislative scorecards. So the projects have run the gamuts. We have had fellows actually work with people to also do walk audits and even podcasts. So some of those types of projects we are working on currently within Siege, but not all of those. So the engagement this year, you would work more hand in hand with a Siege staff person, one of those experts to sort of help advance the work of Siege and possibly one of Siege community partners. So I hope that does that answer your question?
Yes, and then the bit, well, I guess I wanted to know a little bit more about whether, and you kind of already answered this, whether there was like opportunity for input from the fellows on what types of projects they would like to be matched with. So I think you answered
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Elena Hernandez, please come off of mute.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. My question's regarding on who can apply. Um, are folks currently in academia or the research space limited to apply? So I just wanted to learn more on who you're looking for.
No, Elena, that is a great question. So the great thing about this particular program is that it is in its infancy stages, meaning this will only be the third cohort of the Climate Justice Fellows Program. And our goal is to spread environmental justice to as many people as possible, which is why we have kept the materials to um, like beginner to intermediate knowledge. So it is open to anyone who just even has a passion and desire to learn about environmental justice. As the cohorts go on, I am actually right now in the process of working to develop a strategic plan for how the program can change in about 5 years. So that way we can have more advanced modules. And I am confident that when that time comes, I know people that with, advanced knowledge, especially in academia or research, would probably be it would probably be very beneficial for them to participate. Um, but that's not to say that it won't be beneficial for you to participate right now, especially if you don't have a lot of knowledge specifically geared towards environmental justice. So the biggest goal, long answer, is we want to have a very diverse range of people participating in the program. So as long as you're over the age of 18, and you are interested in environmental justice, we welcome you to submit an application. Does that answer your question? All right, we're going to move on to Kai Tran.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this session. It's been incredibly helpful, and I appreciate all the information from this. I wanted to ask about the modules. You mentioned 4 to 10 hours a week. Could you maybe expand upon that variability, what the time commitment expectation should be for folks, or why is it some weeks may take 4, some weeks may take 10? Any clarity on that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, the reason it's 4 to 10 is basically driven by the content, right? So think about introduction, your very first module. Um, we're going to talk about the history of environmental justice and the movement of environmental justice. So that's probably going to take a little longer. That may take you, 5 to 7 hours, like total. Obviously, it's over the course of an entire week, and you can go through it at your pace. So that may take some people a little longer. There may be videos you'll have to watch, papers you may need to read, things of that nature. And then there are uh, modules that aren't necessarily content heavy, because you just may need the basic information, like reviewing a case study, where that information is going to be used to build upon uh, moving towards the next module. So that's why it's anywhere between 4 and 10 hours. And we actually rounded up a little bit. In last year's cohort, we found that it was anywhere between 3 and 7 hours, but we wanted to make sure that um, we were being generous and conservative with the time, so that people who are working professionals would know that it could possibly take them that amount of time to get through some of the modules. Who else? I see Octavia Nettles. I'm going to ask you to come off mute.
Hello? Can y'all hear
Yes.
me now? Okay, there we go. Hi, yes, my name is Octavia Nettles, and I just want to thank you, Nicole, and your entire team for putting this together and including the information session as a part of your process. I truly appreciate that. My question is in reference to the recommendation letters that you mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
I am really wondering, are there any details or how long it should be, or what to include, or what you are expecting out of a strong recommendation letter that you can share with us?
Yeah, so great question, actually. So just know that recommendation letters are not required. We made them optional with the language that, we strongly recommend them, to sort of boost your application to the top. Because one of the things that we have found in the previous cohorts is that when working professionals get the buy-in of their supervisors or the people at their work, they tend to have a more pleasant experience um, in the program, and they tend to have, more ideas and more excuse me, more collaborative spirit in terms of going through the program. So that's one of the reasons why we ask for recommendations. But again, it's not required. We do recognize that there may be a lot of working professionals here. And then, if we're being frank, some of our jobs do not support our outside endeavors. But, we would love for you to have the support of your employers. So some of the things that we are looking for, we're looking for people who are really self-starters, who don't need a lot of hand holding in terms of going through the modules, because I mentioned the modules for the most part are self-guided. And then on those virtual sessions, those weekly sessions, we'll come together, talk about the modules, um, just to, go through and answer any questions or any things that are outstanding. Some of the modules, we actually will have a professional, either myself or another Siege team member, actually doing more of like an instructional module. So it'll be more interactive and that non-asynchronous learning mode. So we're looking for self-starters, people who are motivated to work on their own, don't need a lot of hand holding. We are looking for uh, did I mention self-starters? Yeah, we're we're looking for people who really just have a desire and a commitment to bridging what they know and bringing what they are already experiencing or working on within the community, and learning how to take what they learn in the program and apply it to the work that they either are currently doing or work that they want to work on and engage on. And I will say this, having done um, the modules that way, I will use myself as an example. I was actually a participant of the very first climate justice cohort um, program, and it was a wonderful experience. There were about 30 of us, and for me, it was such a wonderful experience, and I gained so many additional community connections. And this was in 2023. And even today, I still work within the communities where I did my capstone project. So you sort of had the opportunity to continue to build those relationships and see some of your programs thrive that you want to put into place. Um, and, for me, it was a little different. I was a consultant at the time of the program, so I just asked some of my clients to write me letters of recommendations. But yeah, you can have professional letters of recommendations. We've had a few people that are students who have had their professors write letters of recommendation, and some person had their mom write them a letter of recommendation. Right? We we always say, our mom or our dad, they're going to speak very highly of us, but the letter of recommendation was written so well that the mother actually spoke to what the person does in the community and how they did that. And then we had another person's recommendation, like their pastor wrote them one. So it's just a variety of things that we are there. And if I'm being frank, when we're looking at the applications, we're looking at things that jump out at us, right? Um, so I hope that answered your question. I do see a few more hands, and I see some hands that have already asked questions. So what I would love to do is be able to make sure we get to the folks who have not yet asked their questions, and then should we have time at the end, I'm happy to stay on just a few more minutes and answer additional questions from people who have already had the opportunity. So right now I see Yvonne Boone. If you want to come off mute, that would be great.
Okay, hi, thank you. A question about the 12 modules. Is there some sort of mechanism within that program that measures mastery?
Yes. So before that, so I mentioned that's what the capstone project was about, right? To sort of bring all of that um into play. This year we're doing it a little differently. So in addition to working with either Siege staff or senior fellows or community members on certain projects, we're going to be looking at you and doing asking you to gauge in either surveys, or there may be an opportunity for you to write like a small letter to the editor or something like that to really show us that you are grasping some of these concepts.
Got it. I have another question, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so and the what were the number of participants last year? And keeping that in mind, why was the number decreased this year? Just curiosity.
Oh, no. So the first year when I did it, we started out with about 30, and then a few people dropped, so we ended up at 28. Last year, they started out with 25 and ended with, I think, 24. And people drop, occasionally. This year, we are in a transition year and we meaning Siege as an organization, because we are doing a lot of different programming, and also unfortunately because of some of our funding was tied in also into federal funding as well. We want to make sure that we are giving the cohort members the best experience possible to be able to keep the stipends the same, not lower the stipends. So we want to make sure that we have uh, everything that we need to be able to give each individual person that participates in the program everything that they need. So next year, it'll be a little different after we've gone through some shifting. But that is the main reason that the program is smaller this year.
Okay, thank you for answering that. That's
You're
kind of
welcome.
what I thought it would be. And I think it's awesome that you're still offering the program with just diminished numbers. So
Mhm.
kudos to that. Also, why did you eliminate the capstone project?
We eliminated the capstone project this year. Again, so I mentioned Siege is in transition. So we've also had a lot of transition in terms of staff and some of our community partners. So some of the community partners that fellows worked with to do their capstone projects with in previous cohorts, um, those partners have also lost a lot of funding due to some of the federal cutbacks. So that's one of the biggest reasons why we are shifting from the capstone module and having you guys work directly with Siege staff on some of our projects. All right, I see Desiree Miller.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my
You're
name is
welcome.
Desiree. I had another question about the projects. Hopefully, it's not too repetitive for the ones that have already been asked, but I work for a community organization that already does some different like environmental justice work. I help manage the community farm, and then we also do some like air quality monitoring. So I was wondering, for the project portion, I know it shifted away from the capstone, but for the project portion that still exists, like, would I be able to do my project based on something that would be like incorporated in or like helping the work that has already been done in my organization, or is it like I will have to kind of do my project based on the staff member that I'm working with?
Um, That is a great question. So let's do me a favor. If you send an email after this, I'll set up a time to chat with you sometime tomorrow and we can talk more about it. Um, because we actually haven't given that any thought. We want to make sure that whatever the fellows are doing, it can sort of be monitored.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and it's very possible, maybe your organization is one of our partner organizations or someone we've partnered with before. So in
Mhm.
that instance, it could be okay. So
Okay,
yeah, let's definitely talk about that.
thank you.
You're welcome. Lauren Hudson.
Hello, thank you for hosting this information session. It's been really helpful. My question is regarding the letter recommendation as well, and I just wanted to ask a little bit more clarity. I was wondering if because you mentioned how it's really helpful to get like the buy-in from your current employer and things like that. Um, I'm I was thinking of getting like a previous employer, and so I'm wondering if you think that would be effective with like now that I have an understanding of like what your goal is, like what you hope to get out of the letter recommendation from the applicants.
No, Lauren, that is absolutely fine. So I'll just reiterate again. We encourage getting the buy-in of current employers, just so they know, like in the event that we have these sessions every Monday and it has to be at noon, right? So if you have the buy-in of your employer, they know um Lauren is working with the Siege team on Mondays at noon. So give her a little grace, give her a little freedom. And that's the only reason I mentioned that because those are some of the things that we have found that was helpful to working professionals. I'll tell you, we had a couple of individuals, actually several individuals in last year's cohort, um, who got the buy-in their of their current employers, and they were so excited, like they did press release for their for their staff, and highlighted them on the website and just shone a light on the partnership and things that they were learning in the cohort. So again, not required, but that's one of the things that I found that is helpful to those of us who are working professionals who want to spend an hour out of our time and not necessarily have to use our lunch break to do it, right? So I hope that's more helpful. Who is next? I see Sharilla Cupid. Did I say that correct? Sharella Cupid.
Urella.
Sharella. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
You're
Quick
welcome.
question connected to the topic of interest. I would like to know if the connection between reproductive justice and environmental justice is a point of interest for this organization, because that's the lens in which I want to approach and apply for this program.
Yes, it absolutely is. And that is, so it's not one of the specific modules, but it's covered in one of our modules.
Okay, awesome.
Yep, and
Thank
we
you.
actually have a person on staff currently that works and has studied in that space. So if that's something that is of interest to you, I know that she would be very excited to work with you because not a lot of people ask about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Happy to hear
You're
that.
welcome. Let's see. I see Monet Tripp.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for hosting this information session. And I just have a question about the first requirement to be in person in Baltimore.
Mhm.
Here in Georgia, so it's a little bit of a drive. I was just wanted to get clarification on how long the first requirement is, just in consideration of travel.
Oh, okay. So the first requirement, it's just one day. It's in person, and it will most likely be on a Saturday. And it will generally run from anywhere between 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's just, pardon me, that's just the one day. And we have not confirmed the location for that yet, which is why I said either Washington, D.C. or um, Baltimore area, which are very, close together if you're from this area. But the other in-person requirement, that is the symposium, and that happens in September. That is, a multi-day requirement. So that is from September 10th through September 13th. And
Okay.
that one is in Baltimore.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let's see. Taya Wright. Did I say that correct?
This is Tia.
Tia. Okay. Thank you.
First, I'll just thank you so much for having this session. My apologies if you covered this already.
All
But
right.
in terms of just bouncing off of the previous question, when it comes to travel, especially when looking towards the symposium, since it is multi-day, is there any support that's given for travel and accommodation? Or is that the responsibility of the fellow?
So it's half and half. So Siege will cover uh hotel accommodations and meals. We are asking that fellows cover, if you're not in the immediate area, that you will cover your own travel to symposium. I did mention, however, there are some limited scholarship opportunities available. So that's something we would talk about if you are accepted into the program. Let's see. Alfredzo Nash. Alfredzo, is that how you say it? Alfredzo?
You got it the first time. Yes, I
Okay,
appreciate it.
nice.
Alfredo. So again, I hate to triple dip, but my question is also multifaceted on the same topics. The first is I'm not from this industry. I'm actually pretty excited that this has been so informative. I did miss the first half, but Grace is in my master naturalist training, so I think her question is key too. I don't have a professional reference because I'm coming over from cybersecurity.
hmm
Can I use a reference from the master naturalist program? And will
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
I appreciate that. The other subset is I'm a podcast creator and owner. So is there ways to stripe that into this environment?
Yes, actually. So one of the things that I mentioned is that some of the previous projects that we worked on was a podcast, and that's actually one of the current projects that we're working on. So even this year at Symposium, we are looking to highlight one of our plenary sessions and do a live podcast. So if you are accepted into the program, we would certainly tap you to help us with that.
I appreciate it. So along those lines too, is there a rubric for the acceptance criteria of the fellows, like past experience, education, cross-trainable skills? Is there a rubric, or is that only for the committee to review?
So that's a great question. For senior fellows, yes. For new fellows, the answer is no, only because this is only the third year of the program, and we want to make sure that we are just the basics of our requirement is that we want to ensure that we have a diverse range of participants. So someone like yourself, not just diverse in ethnicity and location, but diverse in terms of our education and skill set level. So someone like yourself who's coming from a cybersecurity background, who hasn't worked in this space at all, but you have a passion and desire to learn, those are some of the things that we are also looking for, because we will be able to learn from one another and approach these modules from different perspectives, right? So using myself as an example again, when I participated in the project, in the program, I have years of environmental experience, just working in the environmental field and conservation, but I had never done any work on EJ until the year that I actually participated in the program. So it was very new for me as well.
Yes, this is outstanding. I didn't expect all of this. So
Yeah.
I'm very interested in green and natural infrastructure, and particularly the climate change adoption approaches. I mean,
Mhm.
capacity planning too, but again, that aligns with mapping tools. I mean, there's so many of the modules that align to cybersecurity. I
Yeah.
guess I want to come here and see, with a beginner's mind, how I can contribute.
Yeah, no, and it's perfect for the modules are perfect for anybody from the novice with zero experience to people with intermediate experience and understanding of EJ. While we have had some people that were a little advanced, I can tell you that those people, like just full disclosure, if you have advanced knowledge of environmental justice and climate justice, the modules tend to get a little boring and redundant for people because of the way that they were designed. Excuse me. But what those individuals, we didn't have a lot of those individuals. What those individuals found very helpful was once we finally got to that capstone portion of the project, and they were able to take everything that they already know and just bring it together in a different format there. Um, let's see. I see whose hand did I see first? Uh Jakai Vyas? Help me say that correctly.
It's Jonky.
Junkie,
It's
okay.
like John with a key at the end. Thanks again. I just I have two questions. The first question was, how much does it hurt you if you don't have a letter of reference?
It doesn't hurt you
If
at all.
you're self-employed or something like that.
No, so again, it doesn't hurt you. So if you notice the application, we said that they're strongly encouraged. We did not require letters of recommendation. So to be fair, before we even review the letters of recommendation, we go through all of the applications and we view the thorough responses from each participant before we even get to looking at letters of recommendation. So it doesn't hurt you at all. And I mentioned, I'm not sure how long you've been on the call, but I did mention I participated in the program the first year and I was also self-employed. So I did have letter of recommendation, but I just asked one of my clients to write it for me.
Okay, gotcha.
Hmm.
And then the second question was related to the symposium in September. I already know I have a conflict for one of the 3 days.
Hmm.
Would that, like, could it be something that you just come down on the Friday, head back, or it's the Thursday that I have a conflict for? But is that something that like would be acceptable if it was like you're just missing one of the 3 days, or?
I think that would absolutely depend on, I guess, what it is that you're working on when we get to the collaboration portion, because obviously every day at symposium you're not presenting or sharing, about a project that you're working on. I will say though that Wednesday, and I should have said this earlier, so I apologize for this. Wednesday, September 10th, it is a virtual day. The reason that we ask people to be present and on site is so that we can make sure everyone is available and prepared to go on Thursday morning. What I would recommend that you do, if you have not filled out your application, or if you have, you can go back and edit it. And in the section that says if there's anything else that you want to share, maybe put in that section so we will know ahead of time um, which day your conflict is for, and then we can consider it from there. But we have had in the past one or two fellows who were not able to make, one day or so of the conference. Yeah,
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much.
you're welcome. Michelle Haywood. Hayward, sorry, Michelle Hayward.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
I completed the Just Energy program through Partnerships for Southern Equity. Would this be a good add-on to that? So I'm not really a beginner or entry level. Um, and so I'm just trying to figure out where I would, if this was a good continuation with what I started with their cohort in their program.
So I am not actually familiar with their full cohort. Um, I would assume that the cohort focused heavily on energy matters and energy equity and justice. Would that be accurate? An accurate
That,
assumption? Okay.
that's right.
Yeah, so having said that, this program would probably augment that. um, as it relates specifically to overarching topics of environmental and climate justice, because there's only one module in our program that focuses on uh, energy justice and the just energy transition.
Okay. All right. Is there a place that other modules are located online?
Yeah, so if you look at the flyer that you received, well, I don't
Yeah.
know. How did you receive this information? Let me ask you that.
Partnership for Southern Equity sent over your program information, your promotion. So it's
Oh,
probably
okay.
that, yeah.
So okay, so I'm not sure how they sent it. So do me a favor. There is, I'm gonna put it in the chat again. Fellows at siege.org. If you send a note there, I'll be sure to get a flyer over to you,
Okay.
and to anyone else who's here who asked for it, so that you can look at, all of the modules.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, my apologies. I thought I put that in the chat. I didn't press send yet. It is, there we go. All right, then we have two more questions. We're gonna go to Jasmine Haywood and Hosea Haywood.
Hi, I had asked a question earlier, but I'm sorry if I'm taking somebody else's like space because I had just put my hand up. But just hearing about the modules, I was wondering if there is an opportunity to explore the intersectionality of environmental justice and violence. Is that something that you guys focus on? Um, and I know that newcomers would be paired with different projects or mentors. Is that something that is also on the table? Because that's the area that I focus on.
So, that is not one of the modules this year. However, that is a topic of interest to several people on staff, including myself. And we are actually just in talks with a few mental health professionals to sort of bring those intersections together to see how we can partner there. So if you are accepted into the program, you may be in a unique spot where you're working with one of our partners to help us flesh out some of those education things. And who knows, if that's the spot that you work in right now, you may also be in a position to teach us some things. So, but yeah, absolutely. We love looking at the intersection of um, things within our community and environmental justice as well. I'm going to go to Sherelle Duncan, and then Hosea, I'm going to come back to you because I know you've had a question asked already. And I think Sherelle has not yet asked her question.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited about this opportunity. So my work is in transportation equity. And so I feel like there's a direct correlation between that and environmental justice. And so is that something that you all would be interested in? I guess we're all kind of asking the same questions before we complete our application.
Yeah, so it's actually covered in a few of our models. So again, a lot of the things that we do are cross-sectional and they touch a lot of different areas. So transportation equity is definitely one of those areas. And in fact, if you're accepted into the program, we actually have sessions that we are working on developing right now for a symposium that specifically highlight transportation equity. So I'm gonna take one more question. It's 406, Hosea. Um, thank you all, everybody, for sticking in with us here.
It's a mere follow-up question. And again, thank you for your platform and all the pertinent information you provided. Again, this is germane to the letter of recommendation. I know you said that is not a requirement, but how many is there? If one decides to submit one, is there a minimum or a maximum
Well, yeah, so if you submit one, obviously, there's the one, but the maximum we are asking, please don't give us more than three. I think,
Okay.
one good one would be sufficient and would suffice.
All right. Thank you very kindly. I won't
You're welcome.
any
See
more
someone laughing here. I
details.
know because I'm going to be the person, along with Dr. Wilson, reading through those. Yeah, so definitely not more than one. I do see a few people here who I have met before and they've stuck around. Um, there's some international folks, so I hope that you also consider applying for the fellowship as well. We have on um, on the first day of symposium. The first day symposium is more of a national and international focus, which is why it's a virtual day. So if we have international fellows this year, there are, a few different requirements that we share with those fellows so that they can participate in a virtual format. But anyone that's within the US, we ask that you are in person when it comes to that symposium. Um, and let's see, it is 4:08. I can give you guys until 4:15 if you have any burning questions. Um, the only hands I see right now are people that have already asked questions. So I'll go to those gentlemen, excuse me, Alfredo, and then Hosea, did you have another question or you just hadn't put your hand down yet?
I'm done. Thank you kindly. My
Right, you're
my
welcome.
mistake. Sorry.
So Alfredo, did you have an additional question?
Oh yeah, it was on the along the lines of Mr. Hayward's question. How long is the shelf life on the recommendation? I mean, I have a few recommendations prior for the same organization I mentioned, the Naturalist and Nature Center. But how is it within 15 days, 30 days? Like how long can we go back on the recommendations?
As long as it's within the last, 6 to 8 months, we're fine with that.
Okay, perfect. And then it's kind of a stat question, and just because I'm reading the tea leaves a little bit. How is the grant provided for this organization and the fellowship? Is it academic, federal, business?
Uh, ask me a different way. I'm not sure I'm understanding this particular question.
So is the grant at jeopardy given our political climate? I'll just be straight to the point.
Oh, do you mean for Siege or for the fellows in terms
For
of
the
receiving the
fellows,
stipend?
sorry, not for
Oh,
Siege. Sorry,
sorry.
sorry,
No,
sorry.
no.
Yep.
This program is funded privately this year. So
Perfect.
we
Okay.
didn't have to
Thank you.
supplement or augment with any federal funding.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then Camille, I don't think you've asked a question.
Sorry, had a technical difficulty there for a second.
That's fine.
But first of all, thank you for hosting this really informative info session. It's super helpful and is a
You're
good part of
welcome.
the application process. But so I currently am not uh, employed, so I have an unpaid internship. I'm a National Climate Fellow and Director of Research and Publications at Change the Chamber, but I'm currently not employed. Is it
Mhm.
requirement for this to apply to be a Siege Fellow that you be currently employed in some capacity, like currently have a paid job or have had a
No
paid job?
way. No way.
Okay.
Yeah, nope. If you're 18 and older, you're welcome. You have an interest in environmental justice and a passion to learn about it, you are welcome to apply.
Yes, absolutely. And I apologize if I missed this, but what is the time scale of this fellowship? What that commitment would look like from the time of onboarding to completion?
Approximately 21 to 23 weeks. So it's technically like what you're learning would take 21 weeks, but
Mhm.
with the inclusion of the symposium, that's an additional few weeks, so it's about 23 weeks.
Okay, great. And one, you said there's a stipend associated with this program. Is when is that stipend awarded to participants?
Oh, okay. Stipends are awarded to participants who have completed near. Let me back up. You qualify for the stipend once you've completed about 80% of the program. When you do your in-person requirements, we will typically initiate the stipend just when you've come to initiate your in-person requirements. This year is a little different. Like I mentioned before, last year and year before, fellows had capstone projects that they had to present at symposium. That is not a
Mhm.
requirement this year. So your stipends would come a little sooner than the fellows from the previous cohorts.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then Alma.
Hi. Um, Thank you so much for having this. I was a little bit late, so I hope
No
my
worries.
my question is not repetitive. But I'm from Mexico.
Mhm.
I'm a lawyer from Mexico, and
Nice.
I have always worked with indigenous communities here in Mexico on land rights. And this is how I came across the environmental justice and the environmental justice movement. So I have made one of my personal missions in life to bridge the environmental justice movement across Mexico and Latin America. So, because what we understand for environmental justice is very different. So for
Mhm.
me, this is like I've been trying to attend conference, and this is how I came across this because I'm planning to go to the next conference in Baltimore,
Oh, nice. Okay.
and I would like to participate in this cohort. Although I'm not an expert, and very humble. I say like I'm from Mexico, so I am not within the communities in the U.S. But I was wondering, one, if I can apply for this, and the second is if it could be possible to have my capstone project with communities in Mexico.
So, absolutely. So I will, before I fully answer that, I'm going to say one of the things about environmental justice, and you will learn this in the 17 principles of environmental justice, we look at community members as the experts, right? So you mentioned you do a lot of work within your community, you're a lawyer, and that's how you learned about environmental justice. So we would consider you one of those experts, like you are a community expert, right? No one knows our communities better than the people who actually live in those communities. So you'll see that one of the things about environmental justice is that we want to make sure that we are not
How you doing?
perpetuating those colonizer type
Oh yeah.
mindsets when we go into communities. We want to work with communities, listen to communities, and be partners with community members um, to do any of the projects that we're doing within the communities, right? Nobody likes, somebody coming into their space saying this is what you should do. Um, the first thing we need to learn to do is listen. So, having said that, you said you're not an expert, but I challenge you. You are an expert. Next
Thank you.
thing is you are absolutely welcome to apply for the fellowship. I did mention that we have had some international fellows in previous cohorts. It is important to note, however, that SIEGE does not cover travel to and from um, the symposium and in-person cohorts. If you are accepted as a fellow, we will cover your lodging, we'll cover your hotel room because that's what we're covering for all of the fellows that participate. And of course, the meals, would be included with that, but we will not cover travel. So you're absolutely welcome to participate and apply for the program. Unfortunately, have I don't have any more time, but I wanted to. There are two questions I think from people I did not see ask questions before. So those will be the last questions. I'm going to ask you to be succinct and keep your question brief. And if you have additional questions, please send your questions to fellows@siege.org. So the first person I'd like to go to is Sister Victoria.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. And again, thank you so much for providing this platform. My specific question is if you all have explored or if any of the modules speak to the work that I'm doing, which really looks at the power of the arts in
I'm
environmental
sorry. I'm
justice.
sorry, Victoria. Could I
Oh.
ask you to repeat that one more time? My dog was going outside, so I didn't hear you. I apologize.
Sure, no problem. No problem at all. I was just saying thank you so much for this platform and particularly wondering if any of the modules look at the work that I'm doing, which really explores the power of the arts in environmental justice and the ways that that propels us forward when we're thinking about the future and the futuristic landscape as well.
So, to answer your question, the answer is no, none of the modules do. However, last year was the first year at Symposium that we looked at that intersection between art and environmental justice and social justice, and we are expanding on that in the symposium this year. So, I encourage you to apply because we could definitely use someone with your expertise to sort of help hone that with us. We have some great things planned for symposium this year. We are looking to include an art exhibit and just an overall cultural night where we would have either, visual art and performing artists come, and then we are building in one or two sessions specifically focusing on that intersection between art and environmental justice.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and get the application in. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then last question, Leah Toddy. And then I'm going to ask everybody else to please send your questions to fellows@siege.org. I will put that in the chat for you again, fellows@siege.org. And that's where we will respond to your questions. So, Leah, you have the floor. Last question.
Hello, thank you for hosting this webinar. I was wondering, because you're a sustainability consultant, are you going to be one of the mentors for this program?
The short answer is probably. It has not been determined yet, but yes, I will be working with all of the fellows throughout this program. Which module I am specifically working on has yet to be determined because I've also been hired to do some other stuff for Siege. Um, so yeah. Was there something in particular that you were hoping to maybe work with me on or work with another staff person on? Well, I think you're on mute, Leah.
Oh, I'm interested in becoming a sustainability consultant, so I was just wondering if you had any knowledge to impart so that I could gain more experience and understanding of the role you play in working with different organizations.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, do me a favor, send a note to fellows@siege.org, and I'll grab your information from there and we can set up a chance to chat about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that is all the time I have, folks, for questions. I know it's well after the time, so I thank all of you that have stayed on to answer and listen to the additional questions. if you had, obviously you're on here, so you're registered. In case you came on late, once the recording is ready, I will be sure to make sure the recording goes out to everyone, and make sure the flyer goes out to folks, since just because I know that people receive this information in different ways. So I want to make sure that we all have the same information, and we're all starting from the same point when we fill out our applications. And just an FYI, you actually have the ability to also go back and edit your applications if you see fit. So you will have until April 6th to edit your applications. After on April 7th, the applications will be closed. But I thank all of you again. Again, I see some of my international friends on here. Please don't be shy about applying. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening or afternoon, depending on where you are.